Just so we can pull everybody up to speed, I think the first place to start with this is, what does the FDA do for us and what does the FDA not do for us? Because 2 years ago during the pandemic, a huge article came out that the joke within the FDA is that the F is silent. So if you know what the F stands for food, the D stands for drugs. And so the joke within, and it was a huge article that came out in a major newspaper, and it was saying how they don't put enough effort into protecting the quality of food, of those ingredients. So can you talk a little bit about what the FDA is doing for us with ingredients and what it's not doing, so that if anybody's like, well, this seems a little extreme, I really hang with us here, because what we're talking about is life-saving. And you need to know that the powers that be here in America, they don't have your back when it comes to things like food ingredients causing cancer and food ingredients causing Alzheimer's and dementia. They don't care about that. They care about profit.
Yeah, there's this underlying assumption that the FDA has sat and regulated and looked at every single chemical in our food supply, and they're party safety testing these chemicals before they're approved for use. That's the actually opposite of what actually happens. The food companies that create the chemicals themselves submit the safety data, and then the FDA just rubber stamps it, because they look at the data and they're like, oh, it's fine for use. This company says so, so we will approve this for use. And there's over 3,000 chemicals right now in the food system that have never been regulated at all. There's no safety data on them whatsoever. And so there was a very important point where the deputy director of the FDA came out and admitted that they don't have the resources to look after all of these food chemicals that are in our food supply. So it's really up to us to decide whether we want to be part of this experiment or not. And if you look at examples, and I'll tell you one very important example that will just blow your mind. Red number 3. Red number 3 was banned in cosmetics because it causes cancer in lab animals. Okay, but what happened at the last minute is the maraschino cherry industry that worked very closely with the alcohol industry came in at the last minute and made a line item edit to that law and said, you know what, we're still going to allow it in food because we won't be able to make our maraschino cherries that were popular at the time with Shirley Temples and all the drinks that you would find at bars. So we're going to allow red 3 in food, but you can't put it in your lipstick. And this is how screwed up. Yeah, this is an example of how screwed up the food system is. Just this week, California has now banned red 3, and they're going to have up to like 3 or 4 years to enact that. And I think that should hopefully nail the coffin on red 3 across the United States, because California is such a huge market, and that's why it's so crucial for California to lead the way in a lot of these regulations in terms of food. But for so long, this was happening, and that's just one chemical that I'm talking about. This has happened across the board with several different chemicals that are allowed for use in our food.
You know, again, when you dive into this, it's so depressing, and this is why we have to take matters into our own hands.